All right. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the regular meeting to order and announce that the board did meet in closed session and that for item number 1, no further action will be taken in response to the voice of choice letter, and no other action was taken on items 2 through 4. I would also like to announce that tonight's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. I would like to announce that cards are available at the table just outside of the boardroom for anyone who wishes to address the board. If you wish to address the board, please complete a card and hand it to the staff member to the right of my side. Please be sure to complete the card indicating whether the item you wish to address is on the agenda or not on the agenda. If the matter is on the agenda, we will assume you wish to speak when it comes time to address that item on the agenda, and we'll hold your card until that time. I would also like to announce a change that has been made. Staff is recommending that we remove item number 1 from the discussion items section of the agenda, and it will be brought back for approval at a future regular board meeting. All right. First up, we have our Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to call on Mr. Juan Alcala to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Don Ross, if you're here with Florin High School, you are free to come up here and join. And Mr. Tony Perez will be reading about you. Mr. Perez? I don't know. Okay, don't leave yet. We have a water spillage here. One moment.
Okay.
All right. Careful. Oh, and the whole family. Yes. Excellent.
Bear with me here. I had a little water spill. Okay, Juan and Rosa Alcala, Florin High School, Don Ross, Principal, Anthony Tony Perez, Board Member. Tonight we are pleased to recognize Juan and Rosa Alcala for their support of Florin High School and Florin Region. Mr. and Mrs. Alcala have been active supporters of the Elk Grove Unified School District and the schools in the Florin region for the last 15 years. They have 5 wonderful children. Antonio, who graduated from Florin in 2015, Karina, a Florin High senior, Georgette, a Florin High sophomore, Juan, a 7th grader at James Rutter Middle School, and Joseph, where is Joseph? There you go, a 3rd grader at Florin Elementary School. Miss Alcala not only loves helping out at the school, but also helping out in her church kitchens and daycare. Mr. Alcala is an active at his children's schools and also enjoys going to the gym and being involved in the Wilton Association of Los Caballeros. That's the horsemen, right? Okay. Their support and dedication to Florin High School and the Florin region have been unsurpassed. They have been a constant presence on field trips since Antonio was a kindergartner. They assist during Picture Day and have been instrumental in helping out Florin High School's FFA's program. Mr. and Mrs. Alcala have been strong supporters of Florin High School and the agricultural program, having attended community and school banquets and events. They have supported the Sacramento County Fair Project and are active in community organizations. Katrina, currently a Florin FFA officer, has been privileged to have been recognized by the Elk Grove Unified School District School Board for her grand champion turkey in 2014. Oh my God. Okay, the staff at Florin High School is very appreciative of Alcala's commitment to education and their desire not only for their own children's success, but also for the success of all children. They have a belief that school is the extension of the family and their job is part of the community that supports our children. On behalf of the staff of the Florin High School and the Florin Region and the Elk Grove Unified School District, the Board of Education thanks Juan and Rosa Alcala for their strong and active support and commitment to education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Alcala, would you like to say anything?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you guys for giving me this honor, and it's a privilege, and I'm completely and totally humbled. Thank you for my kids for being there and really working hard, and when it really comes to it, they really step it up. And again, thank you
For all that you do. So we have a small gift for you, and we're going to take a picture.
We'd like to honor you with your family with this plaque. And this is the key to Florin, but it's a, it's a little small token of appreciation.
Thank you.
And we'd like to take some pictures with your family.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Come on, Don Ross, over here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, that's all right. We'll see you at graduation soon, right? Yeah. 2 more. All right. Very good.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next up we have our high school representative reports. First, our namesake, Elk Grove High School. The herd is representing. Oh my God.
The herd is here.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Savalos. My name is Jackson McDaniel, and I am the Senior School Board Representative at Elk Grove High.
My name is Emily Medogovich, and I am the ASB president. The past few months have been really busy for the herd. We have had multiple Unity Days, our famous Cartwright Tournament and Rally, Cookies and Cram, Australian Guests, Winter Homecoming, and our third annual Multicultural Assembly was just last week. Twice each semester, EJHS hosts Unity Day, where peer counselors and link leaders work with students new to the herd family through orchestrated activities that allow students to open up and to express themselves, make connections, make a difference, and be heard. Right before winter break, we had our Cartwright Rally. Our hard-working ASB changed a few aspects of the rally, focusing more on a celebration of the fall and winter sports programs with games and activities between athletes of various teams. The cross-country team were not only hungry hippos, but also really fast, and the women's basketball team pitched in for a win on the Weird Objects Shootout. It was a blast for everyone.
In the beginning of December, we had our famous Cartwright Tournament, where 16 teams from around Sacramento come to Elk Grove High School to participate in a 3-day tournament. This year, the men's basketball team came out with the championship win. We also hosted the wrestling finals for Division I wrestlers, resulting in Elk Grove winning the match and 5 of our wrestlers placing first for their weight class. We have 5 wrestlers that made it through divisionals and masters and are now going to state finals. Both men's and women's basketball programs have advanced to postseason play. Congratulations to the men's team, which advanced to the second round of playoffs, and as we speak, the women's team is playing in the semifinals at UOP. Now that spring is in the air, we have full contingency of sports to enjoy on the field, on the courts, on the track, in the stadium, on the golf course, and in the pool. The herd will bring it, you just need to come and enjoy it. Before the break, we had our annual Cookies and Cram in preparation for fall finals. After school, students are able to come to the library and enjoy snacks, be surrounded by friends, and have a good time, studying for their finals with help from peers and teachers. Shortly after Cookies and Cram, we had our fall finals with students ready to close the semester out with a good grade after a hard test. We will celebrate all that hard work last semester with our academic awards night happening next week, Monday, March 7th at 6 p.m. We will be recognizing students with 3.67 GPAs or above and announcing the first group of CSF Life members. Of course, we will have the jazz band there, and there will be cookies. Sounds like a great night. We also have been very busy getting students ready for the next school year by registering students for classes. We have so many electives that the process of letting students know what is available for them pushes our creativity in every department. As soon as we welcomed the new year, we had many visitors up from down under. Our Australian host families came to the school on the 1st January to welcome their new friend into the family. There were many hellos and hugs and excited screams when friends from social media met for the first time. The Aussies had fun there with their group. They went to the snow, San Francisco, and Old Sacramento, but we got to bring our Aussie friends on campus for a day, and they lived one day in the life of an American teenager. Sadly, after 2 fun weeks, we had to say goodbye. There were many tears shed and sad goodbyes, but we sent them with our example of herd hospitality that they were encouraged to pass along wherever life takes them.
This winter homecoming explored yet another creative twist inspired by our friends at Del Campo High School. Winter Homecoming Week began with homecoming halls, where each class depicted a scene from an Under the Sea movie and created a space where students could walk through and experience the highlight of that movie. The freshmen chose Shark Tales and gave us a whale wash. The sophomores were at Bikini Bottom with SpongeBob, while the juniors gave us The Little Mermaid and the seniors were Finding Nemo. We, of course, had our winter homecoming rally, where there were many different Under the Sea themed skits and performances revealing our royalty court to the school. In the first weeks of February, we had prom expos for the juniors to get an idea of what they will be wearing at prom. There were 10 pairs showing off tuxedos and dresses for the whole school to see at lunch, along with a short choreographed skit from each pair. Earlier this week, we had our 3rd annual Multicultural Assembly, opening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks to the hard work of our Unity Herd and the advisor, Miss Lee, students from a variety of cultural backgrounds displayed entertaining, colorful, and sometimes moving pieces to share with us, something we can enjoy and admire together. What has become conspicuous in our multicultural presentations is how integrated and diverse the students are who participated in each performance. We love that we model unity as we share our diversity.
Just last night, the Elk Grove High School mock trial team won the Sacramento County Mock Trial Championship, and they will now advance to make their case against the best programs in the state. This is their 4th time winning county in the last 4 years. In the upcoming months, the Herd will be on the move to more formal events. Junior prom is March 12th, and senior ball is April 16th. On April 9th, we will join with the Walk to Remember of those of our Herd who have been giving it their all. The walk originated to commemorate the sacrifice of alumni Sergeant Brian E. Hall, but has grown to so much more. Along with his family, we invite you all to come out and share the day, bring your red, white, and blue, and wave it proud. We will roll up our sleeves one more time this year as we make life-saving donations during the blood drive on May 11th. By the way, you are all invited to come by and help support the cause, give a pint, and get a cookie. To close out the year, we have AP exams that we will once again be indebted to our great dedicated staff for getting us over the top. May we finish with a flurry of senior awards and celebrations, culminating with graduation day, May 23rd at 3:30 p.m., where we send off the class of 2016 with our full applause to their next season of life. We thank them for their contributions to our Herd and wish them well everywhere they go. Thank you. That will conclude our report.
Great job. All right, next up we have Franklin High School.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Natalie Steckline.
And my name is Emily Stock.
Franklin High School is wrapping up Term 3 and beginning Term 4, with many exciting activities still to come.
Franklin's women basketball finished 8-10 overall and made it to the playoffs this year. Unfortunately, they took a tough loss from Golden Valley last Tuesday. However, they have had big improvement from last year. Men's basketball had some big wins at home this year. We defeated Consumnes Oaks in front of a packed gym, and we defeated Davis in a tough Delta League game.
Our wrestling team has had some achievements, with 3 girls at state, 1 placing in the top 5, and 6 boys at Masters. Our spring sports are just getting started as they finish tryouts and are now practicing and training for their competitive seasons. We have over 400 athletes playing in 8 different spring sports programs. Tomorrow night, our baseball team is playing at Rayleigh Field, with the varsity team scheduled to start at 6:30. We wish Coach Kilby and the team the best of luck.
We began the month of February with a busy week of activities. During that week was Franklin's Counselor Appreciation Week, where students made little gifts, got the counselors' favorite Starbucks drinks, and provided a luncheon for all the counselors. In the middle of that first week was our second Take Your Parent to School night, as parents got to experience an average day at Franklin High School. We had more than 200 parents on campus for this event. Franklin ended the first week of February by holding our ASB and class officer elections for the 2016-2017 school year. Previously in the week, candidates walked around school campaigning with flyers and treats, encouraging the student body to get out and vote.
Franklin held its second annual Neon Slam after a home game against Davis, where more than 400 students enjoyed dancing with the blacklights, lighting up their neon clothes. During Franklin's Winter Club Rush, 21 clubs participated, allowing clubs to advertise and for students to sign up and get involved. Wacky Sports was yet another exciting experience for students to get involved in and support their class in 12 silly games, including favorites such as Shoe Fly Shoe, the Centipede Game, and Pharaoh's Folly. The seniors took home the win with a score of 950 points, leaving the juniors in second, the sophomores in third, and the freshmen in fourth.
Our theater program held their evening performances for the terms 1 and 3 Children's Theater, where they held 4 outstanding performances of Shrek Jr. open to the staff, students, and community of Elk Grove. They have already worked hard with daily performances and will continue with another 25 performances. In total, they will have performed in front of almost 4,000 elementary students and teachers. Also, the Franklin Theater Company has been hard at work rehearsing for the spring musical Into the Woods, which will open on Friday, March 11th. They will continue performing on March 17th and 18th at 7 p.m. and March 12th and 19th at 2 and 7 p.m. We invite the board to attend and experience Franklin's version of this fun musical. Franklin's Random Acts of Kindness, or RACS Week, is this week. The RACS commissioners will be passing out flowers and lollipops and will be posting positive notes around campus, as well as having students write notes to teachers, followed by a tie-dye day on Friday to spread the kindness.
On Thursday of this week, Franklin students get the chance to help save lives by donating for the blood drive. Also on this Friday is Franklin's Poly Night, featuring Poly and HACA members who have been working hard for several months. This event will take place in Franklin's main gym at 6 p.m., and we invite the board to attend. If you see some students dressed up in tuxedos and formal gowns this Saturday, there is a good chance they go to Franklin High School. The class of 2017 is preparing for their junior prom on Saturday, March 5th. Our theme this year is Cirque à la Soirée, and students will get to enjoy delicious appetizers, popular music, and the announcement of their prom king and queen, as voted by their class. It is sure to be a night to remember.
Franklin students are beginning to sign up for the AP exams for this year. Last year, hundreds of exams were passed by Franklin students, and we hope to improve upon that number this year. Our students and teachers are working tremendously hard to succeed on these national exams.
Early admission decisions are starting to come in for our class of 2016. It seems that every day our seniors are getting accepted to some of the most prestigious schools in the country. While some students are still waiting to hear from schools, the class of 2016 will be well represented at some of the finest institutions in the country this fall.
President St. Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Zavalos, we thank you for your time and consideration this evening. We look forward to our last presentation in Term 4. Thank you.
All right, great job. All right, last but not least, we have Las Flores High School.
Good evening, President St. Allen, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Henry White.
And I'm Jose Garcia.
Today we're here to tell you about Las Flores High School and the programs and activities that are offered. First, I would like to share with you how I started the school about 3 years ago. My grandparents had found this school and enrolled me. In my first year, I had realized that this school was for me, and the teachers and students here were something that I could relate to. I had learned to become independent in working and developed responsibility for my academic work. I have successfully matured at this school both academically and socially, which is something I lacked badly. Even though it was a challenge, I overcame it. Many people think that Las Flores is a continuation school. It actually isn't. It's an independent study school that offers the same graduation requirements as any other regular high school. And in the 2014-15 school year, 530 students enrolled. In addition to the independent study, Las Flores operates the following programs. The Home and Hospital program is for students who have a temporary health condition that prevents them from attending school regularly. There are two K through 8 programs. The first is Home Study, where the parent teaches the children at home using materials and lessons provided by a certificated teacher, and the K through 8 Virtual Academy, which is an online program. Track 1 is a summer program for seniors who did not complete the graduation requirements by May. The students enroll in the summer independent study program with the goal of graduating by the end of September. There is also the traveling students program for K through 6 students who must travel with their parents for family emergencies, vacation, or work. The student completes assignments and earns credits while away. The abeyance program is the district program for students on an abeyance contract who are placed at Las Flores. Last year, 108 students attended Las Flores through this program. Now that you know about our programs, let me tell you some of our activities from fall semester. Our first activity was back to school night and student of the quarter recognition. The evening included recognizing students for their outstanding academic progress and their academic improvement. There is also classroom visits and dinner. In October, we had our Red Ribbon Week activities, which included a t-shirt decorating contest, an anti-drug and alcohol essay, and sidewalk art, which I participated in. Students participated in the KCRA Kids Can campaign in October and November. Students contributed canned food items and local food banks, for local food banks. The student of the quarter, the second one, was a breakfast in December, and several students were recognized for their outstanding achievement, and I have been one of those recipients. I have enjoyed being at Las Flores because it has helped me to mature independently, socially, and many other ways. It has allowed me to become better, and in the next school year of May 2017, I will be a proud graduate. And now Jose will complete the rest of our report.
Good evening. I am Jose Garcia, a junior at Las Flores, and have attended this school since the start of sophomore year. I chose to attend this school to concentrate on my grades without distractions, and the school has helped me accomplish that. This school has many great things about it, but one in specific is the variety of projects offered to complete community service, such as making birdhouses, cat beds, cat toys, making blankets for Project Linus, and canned food for food banks. In the spring, our school counselor, Mrs. Strain, schedules financial aid and senior project workshops for seniors. The senior project is a graduation requirement that helps students prepare for life after high school. Upcoming on March 16th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. is open house, which includes dinner and student recognition awards night. Power of the Pen is on March 18th, which is a literary contest giving students opportunity to submit literary stories such as nonfiction, fictional, or poetry. Following that is prom, which is April 15th at Laguna Town Hall from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. with a masquerade ball theme. Tickets for an individual is $45 and a couple is $70. Towards the end of the year is Multicultural Day, which is May 4th, same day as Field Day and Student of the Quarter Awards. Lastly is the graduation ceremony on May 26th at Consumers Oaks Performing Arts Center. This concludes the report for Las Flores High School. Thank you, President St. Allen, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board, and Ms. Avalos for the opportunity to share information about the 2015-2016 school year activities at Las Flores High School.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent report. I would like to recognize Ms. Zita Dendy, Vice Principal at Elk Grove High School. Ms. Chantal Albiani, Principal at Franklin High School. And Mr. Ralph Robles, Vice Principal at Las Flores High School. Excellent job, students. You may be dismissed, so you can go do some homework. All right, next up we have our academic recognition of winter student athletes and coaches. I would like to call on Mr. Rod Edmiston, and assisting will be Mr. Carmine Forcina. The mass exodus, don't leave us. Mike's on.
Good evening. President Singh Allen, members of the school board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. Elk Grove Unified School District is known for excellence in athletics. It will be my pleasure to come back here in the next weeks and months and to come and recognize our section, Northern California, and hopefully some state champions. But this evening, I am honored to bring you a different sort of champions. These teams exemplify what being student athletes is all about. Excellence not only in their athletic activity, but also in the classroom. The following teams had the highest grade point average at their school this winter. As a longtime classroom teacher and coach, I can attest to the dedication and commitment displayed by each of these fine student athletes. With that, I would like to introduce the coaches and captains of our GPA champions. So before I get started, I'd just like to say one other thing. Elk Grove High School, the team could not be here tonight. They are playing at this moment at UOP against Vanden High School, so we're hoping they bring home a victory. If they win tonight, they'll advance to Sleep Train Arena and play Saturday afternoon at 1. I was told that the Sheldon boys team would be here tonight, but I guess Coach Rawlings is working them a little bit overtime tonight. They play tomorrow at Sleep Train Arena at 5:30 against number 2 seed Modesto Christian. If they win tomorrow night, they'll advance to the finals Saturday evening at 8:30. So they will not be here tonight. First, I'd like to introduce Consumnes Oaks High School. Women's basketball, team GPA 3.63. Coach Scott could not be here tonight, so his wife, Inez Scott, will be accepting for him. Abina Botang, student athlete. Elk Grove High School will not be here. They're playing tonight, but accepting for them is Zita Dendi, vice principal at the high school. Florin High School, men's basketball, 3.2 GPA. Coach Tuan Nguyen. Captains Dawson Seichow and Lee Lee Lee. Franklin High School, women's basketball, team GPA 3.57. Coach Johnson had a prior engagement tonight, and they could not make it, so accepting for Franklin High School is Principal Chantel Albiani. Laguna Creek High School, cheerleading, 3.28 GPA. Coach could not be here tonight, so accepting for the coach is Doug Craig, principal of the high school. Student athletes, Sienna Boyer, Michaela Ruiz, and Elizabeth Grotzma. And representing Florence High School also is Principal Don Ross. Monterey Trail High School, women's basketball, 3.34 GPA. Coach Lauren Goodman. Kayla Crump and Cameron Williams. And representing Monterey Trail is Principal Jana Durham. Pleasant Grove High School, women's basketball, team GPA 3.8. Coach James McKeever. Captain Michelle Gorski. And representing Pleasant Grove High School is Athletic Director Bruce Belden. Sheldon High School did not be here tonight, so we'll end up with Valley High School. Wrestling, team GPA 2.86. Coach David Caldwell, captains Philip Mitchell and Dean Tran. Thank you to all of our coaches and student athletes.
Excellent job. All right, we do not have any student expulsion recommendations this week. So next up, we have public comment. And I would like to call on anyone submitting a blue card for an item not on the agenda. I do have 2 blue cards. First up is Mr. Fortuna back. I need the timer. Where'd he go? All right, I'm going to call on Mr. Mark Epstein. Mr. Epstein, you have 3 minutes. If you hold 1 second here, Mr. Madison will start our timer.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. What is being distributed in presentation is our formal request for including our concept proposal on geospatial technology. We've added a virtual education element to it. What you're getting as far as the summary, we've expanded on that. And beyond that, what is all the detailed information, which I will provide to Mr. Cerruti. You will see, unlike our submission in October, it does include a financial element and some recommended sources for funding. And there is a table of contents of the material that is included in this binder. Most of it is the research-based material that member Bobby Singh Allen had requested from the budget workshop. Also, there's some of the samples of some of the lessons that we have developed over at Rudder Middle School with Ken Poppers in his social studies class being funded this year by member Perez. And as far as on the research-based is that there is a direct correlation in the studies of geospatial technology to academic achievement. I will point out that on those studies that most of them were completed, even though they were in the past decade, prior to the development of the web-based functions. So most of it was based upon school sites where they were using software and within computer labs. So at the moment, we do not have research as far as on the impact where we that the functions from the software are now available within the web-based environment. So rather than just particular course with one teacher of access, we now have the ability that once the students develop that is to be able to use that throughout their time in high school and working with a teacher. So we have modified from what we submitted in the fall to be a strategy of working from the bottom up for a comprehensive plan. And I also do know out there, but it hasn't been published, that there's some preliminary findings from a study in Utah, which is more of a sequence, which it's looking like that from the upper elementary into middle school has resulting for those schools that are using the geospatial technology within the instruction a 25% increase in their 8th grade math scores. So I thank you, and I'll provide this to Mr. Cerruti.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Caroline Cabillas. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize.
President Singh Allen, board members, Superintendent Hoffman. My name is Caroline Cabillas, and I'm co-chair of the 16th Annual Cesar Chavez Youth Leadership Conference being hosted by Chancellor Linda Katehi at the University of California, Davis on April the 9th. You received our letter asking for your continued support for this important event. We're here today because of the importance of the conference as an investment in our students and our community. As you're well aware, access to higher education and ultimately higher paying jobs affect the standard of living in all of our communities. Our conference is intended to make information known to students who might not otherwise consider college due to lack of information and or financial resources. Our conference has mandatory workshops for all students who attend on the UC and CSU admission requirements, the community college enrollment process, and financial aid resources. We also offer workshops on career opportunities in the engineering and computer science, legal, medical, and other related fields. Tonight we ask your support for the following: to announce the conference so that students register as quickly as possible, make resources available to students who don't have computers to register, appoint school coordinators who can register your school's preliminary information on estimated number of participating students, and make funding available for transportation to UC Davis. As I said, this is the 16th year of the conference being hosted at UC Davis. More important, long-term, we ask that you commit your support for your students and our community by ensuring that this UC Davis conference is broadly advertised at and is included in your annual budget at your schools. We would be happy to work with the superintendent in that regard, and I can answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, I thank you for your time and your support. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. I invite you to meet with Ms. Pinkerton to help get the word out, and then I think perhaps additional information with Ms. Penna. So if you want to meet with them to get the necessary information for us from our
I
end.
did send a letter to you and the superintendent with the flyer for the conference, and in your packets is a copy of that same letter, the flyer for the conference,
Okay.
and a save the date card.
Wonderful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I could just add purely for informational purposes, because I believe this event came up at the County School Boards Association dinner, and we did confirm that we do have some busloads of students going, but I really do appreciate the very specific suggestions that you gave so we can continue to recruit in the district. But I don't know if maybe there's been a miscommunication, but we do have Elk Grove participation already.
Right, and that's why I did say that we thank you for your continued participation,
Yeah.
but what's important to us is we've looked at the districts, we've looked at the population of the students, and we know that a lot of the students who could be benefit from this information are not getting there. And so we think we need an increased amount of support from the district to get out to all of your schools to get this information out. And also for transportation, we know that several of the schools who come wouldn't be able to bring their students without that transportation.
Right.
So we, again, thank you for your continuing participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I have no further blue cards, so I will move on. We don't have an LCAP update this evening, so I will move on to the budget update. Preliminary 2015-2016, second interim report and budget update. Mr. Fagan.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. This evening I'm here to present the preliminary second interim report. As you know, this is the final report that we'll make for this year. This is the final budget for 2015-16. We present the preliminary report this evening, and we'll answer any questions tonight and over the next couple of weeks and ask the board to approve it at the next meeting on the 15th. So what's included in the report tonight is Proposition 98. We'll talk a little bit about the changes or the recommendations that the governor's made for 2016-17 and how it affects the multi-year projection. Changes from the first interim of 15-16 to the second interim. The results, the unrestricted general fund multi-year projections, we'll show you where we left you at first interim, and then we'll bring you up to speed with where we are now. And then the components of the multi-year projections. So the big key pieces that are in there, and then the next steps. We always like to remind the board that what they would expect to see next. So the governor's budget, this is not new to the board. I think we've showed it on a couple of previous meetings, but we wanted to just refresh the board's memory. The governor proposed $2.8 billion in local control funding formula gap closure, $1.2 billion in discretionary one-time uses. This is the money that he gives to us and says it's supposed to be used for Common Core implementation or other things, but then he also takes it off the debt that he owes us for mandated costs going back many years. The next is the COLA. This predominantly affects our special ed area, and it's a very small 0.5% COLA. We all know special ed has some funding issues, and this certainly isn't going to solve it, but it's money we'll take and move forward as we look for other solutions. Prop 39, this is the energy efficiency, Clean Energy Job Act, and there's new money proposed for next year by the governor. This money comes from a special fund that closed a tax loophole. That the part of the closing of the loophole was the money gets used for clean energy jobs. And then the $1.6 billion for early education. This is the one that combines. I think for us, it's only two of the programs. It's the state preschool and I believe the TK education.
Mr. Fagan, I'm having a harder time hearing. I don't know if others are, just a little bit. I don't know if it's the air conditioning or if that's not working. There, okay. You're being drowned out from the air conditioner, I guess, perhaps. I don't know.
I'll slow it down. Okay. I do have a little thing in my throat, so that might be part of it too. Okay, is this better? Okay. And then the $1.6 billion, we've talked about that before. It's not new funding. It's merely creating a block grant from existing funding. I did see something this morning, I believe it was out of EdSource, that talks about there's numerous groups, including public advocacy groups, that are not in favor of this being done on such a quick timeline. So the idea is to slow it down, look at how it's going to work, particularly because of the TK funding, and one of the main concerns is what happens when we have our next recession or flattening of our revenues, and does this program now become subject to reductions because it's a block grant? And traditionally block grants are things that are looked at first. So we'll see, stay tuned, but there's support, there's not a lot of support in the general population and the legislature for this new funding. So we'll see if the governor gets his way, or maybe he delays it a little bit so that they can work on it a little bit more. And also schools don't like it because of the TK aspect. There's the potential that we get frozen in funding and we don't get new money going forward. So what we do at Second Interim is we reconcile all the salaries. We have the system. We push a button many times. It goes through and says who's in the positions now, how much is budgeted, line by line for the whole district, and it trues up all of our salaries. We also adjust any revenues. And in this case, we made an adjustment to the state revenues by a minus 0.06%. It was a decrease in just the average of our supplemental concentration percentage. So basically flat. We're still at 58 and almost 59%. And a slight change in the gap closure for this year. I talked about this after the governor's budget. The governor increased this year's gap closure by 0.45% to eliminate the maintenance of effort piece. So now he has some more flexibility in how he does allocate new funds going forward, and it's not such a large requirement that it comes to schools. We have an adjustment for additional indirect cost credits, food, nutrition, services. This is a proposal just to set some money aside for 2015-16, and it might be as simple as a loan at the end of the school year to make sure they have a positive fund balance. And we talked a little bit at the special board meeting about some of the problems at food services, and we're still working on that, and we'll be bringing a presentation to the board for discussion in April with Michelle Drake, and we'll go through some of the more specifics. We're still working on that. So this is just a placeholder, if you will, that I wanted to make sure that we had in for this year, and it's not the same one that we have proposed next year. This one would be more of a loan, maybe over the bridge over the end of the year to get us to where we need to get to. So those are the main large changes. For the out years, we basically made the same adjustments to the revenue, the small decrease to our supplemental concentration percentage, an increase in the local control funding formula gap closure this year, and that's the same that carries forward. So those are ongoing changes until we get to next year and the year after. So here's where we left you in December. So this isn't the one that I brought after the governor's proposal, which was kind of an estimate of what we should look for, and it was only from a revenue aspect. So this was the first interim report from December of 2015, and this should look familiar to the board. What changes we've made. So we had an increase to the local control funding formula based on the two pieces I already talked about of about $500,000. Salary and benefits adjustment. This is a one-time adjustment, and normally the bulk of it it's ongoing, but because we had the contingency language last year, I wanted to make sure that without tying up future revenue dollars, that we put some money aside to make sure that we had a contingency for the calculations because of the compounding effect of having the contingency language in there. So this is a change that affects 15-16 predominantly, with very minor effects going out into 16-17, 17-18. So in that first line, the amount that I'd set aside was obviously more than we needed, but I did it in such a way so it didn't affect us as we look further down the road. The additional indirect, $120,000, that's just we have more categorical programs. We charge indirect for them. We have more indirect revenues or transfers coming in. The vacation buyout piece, this is a piece that we have staff, and it's part of our annual audit issue of accrued vacation, that work an actual 180-day school or 180-ish day school year, and they don't have any days that they can take vacation. So they're with students all day, every day. And so, the situation is complicated for these folks in as much as we don't have a sub-pool to bring in behind them and let them take time off during these 180 days. So we've started this practice of if they apply for it and they have a need for these funds now, as we work to try to find subs to backfill and let them take some time off, we've had some vacation payouts to get the amounts down within the contract requirements. And so that's about $300,000 that we've set aside. And then the transfer to food services, it's about $1.5 million. Again, that's the piece. It's a one-time piece for this year. If we need it, it's a loan that we'll set aside. If we don't, then we won't do it as we close the books for this year. So the net of all of those is a positive 0.26. And generally speaking, they're all one-time, probably without in nature, and they all are, because the vacation buyout's a number that we'll set aside an amount each year based on our expected need. The transfer to food service is simply that, and every year the indirect, we kind of reset it back to a new level until we see exactly how many categorical programs we're providing funds for us. So what that does is, where we left the first interim, we showed a surplus this year of about $19.65 million, and so we're showing a surplus now of just about, well, it's the $760,000 that's at the bottom of that slide that increases it up to $20.4 million. And that looks like, on the new multi-year projection, very, very similar from an ongoing standpoint to what we showed to the board at the May revision. I think the third year out was $20,034,000, so it's within a couple $100,000 of ongoing dollars being similar, but there's an increase this year to some one-time dollars based on that slide that we just looked at. So here's what's in the multi-year projection. We made changes to the 16-17 fiscal years based on the estimates that we got from the governor in January. And the new gap closure expenditures, again, we use the middle of the row. We take school services and we take the Department of Finance, and we split the difference between what they expect the gap closure to be, so we have some play in there. Enrollment is flat, so going forward we haven't projected any of those thousands of kids that Rob's getting ready for, but that's generally the case, that when they show up, they start showing up very fast for us. And I think a lot of them may already be here. Expenditures, 15-16 staffing levels, we continue with the same staffing levels for that we have here in 15-16. We've budgeted for special education growth. This is the normal special education growth, which has a small growth piece, as well as some additional aids for the one-on-one students that we expect to see every year and generally do. The healthcare contributions, it's a blended rate because we're switching from a fiscal year to a calendar year, so it's a blended rate of half a year at 8% and half a year at 3%, and then we pay 80% of that. And then for 17-18, we project, as we always have, a 10% increase with 80% of it being borne by the district. The TK overload stipends, and the 80%, we know we use 85-15, but about 75% normally participates, so it's pretty close to 80% of the district covers. The overload stipends is not included for 17-18. It's a 2-year agreement that ends in 16-17, and we'll make that adjustment when it comes about. And as we have since we first heard about it, they always include the CalSTRS and the CalPERS increased percentages of contribution by the district. So we'll be back on March 15th, ask for approval of the second interim report. In May, we'll get the May revise, which is the last piece document we use to finalize the adopted budget for next year. Still running, I don't think it's changed since we last talked, about $500 million ahead of revenues at the state level through January. And then we adopt the budget in June along with the LCAP, and I'll entertain any questions or comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Any questions or comments? Ms. Chaitis Espinosa?
Mr. Fagan, if you could go back to, I believe it was slide 6, the vacation buyout. I'm just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about the type of work that these folks are doing, those 180-day employees you mentioned.
It would be things like, I believe our paraprofessionals, our campus supervisors are probably the major groups that are involved in that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Martinez-Aleri.
I just had a question on the same slide, slide 6. It says the transfer to food and nutrition services. I know you mentioned that there may be potentially, you said a loan if needed. And does that come from the supplemental concentration funds or the base funding? Just clarification.
This one, it would be for 15-16, and so we probably wouldn't necessarily include it on the annual update, although we certainly could, but since it's more looked at as a loan, and we would, the general plan is to make sure we cover their fund balance this year with one-time money, this loan, determine what the annual need is based on the program that we provide, and then make next year we have a one-time amount set aside, and then we'd look at some ongoing amount. And I think those go ongoing where they're actual contributions, and you'll see later, I think that we're recommending that those are counted because of the high level of free and reduced kids that are supported by that program.
Thank
So
you.
But this one probably not.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Fortino?
Yeah, Mr. Fagan.
Sure.
One of my favorite topics. Just to get it on the record, one way in which we end up with surplus is not to spend the dollars we receive, correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the primary way.
Mr. Perez?
On number 6 right there, you mentioned that the transfer of food and nutritional service funds, question was, where is it coming from? Base? Supplemental?
Similar to what?
What was, I wasn't
and-
quite
and
sure.
That one we'll probably look at as a loan, probably just over the
Yeah,
end
it's a
of
loan,
the fiscal year.
yes, I
So
understand.
that one probably wouldn't be counted as supplemental concentration because we'd probably put the money in and then take it back in the
But
new year.
where does the money come from? Supplemental concentration?
Well, this one would be base if we're not counting it as supplemental concentration.
Okay.
It comes from the general fund.
Just comes from general fund, okay. I would have an argument if it, or have an issue if it was coming from supplemental concentration, because I feel that directly that should be intended just for those students that are targeted for it. Just some suggestions, like beginning page 2, I had suggestions on those 5 items. If we possibly, those are state funds that we get from the budget, from the state. I was wondering if we could possibly have what actually goes to Elk Grove Unified School District on maybe parentheses someplace on that line, so we could actually know the actual dollar amounts. That was one suggestion.
I believe we did that at the January.
Yeah, I think,
So
some
it
other
was-
part.
It was in a presentation already. Yeah.
All right.
So we can
But
get that.
no, let's just, then over here on 4, page 4. Right, here's where I liked another issue. And I seen that you did it in supplemental, you actually broke it out in the totals in the further part of your presentation, but I don't know.
You have a question?
Yes, I just kind of hard to kind of flow with the flow of the presentation. What is the, okay, on page 5, I noticed someplace the salary, yeah, it goes up about $13 million from 16, 17 to 17, 18. Does that include CalPERS and STRS retirement funds also?
The 13 million is step, column, health benefit increase, STRS
All
and
that,
PERS.
okay. Okay. That's it.
Anybody else have questions, comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Fagan, for that portion. Part 2 of budget update is the 2016-17 proposed funding priorities and board considerations.
So the first part is the proposed priorities, and I didn't bring a presentation, but it was just to update the board on the document that we sent. It's white for me, but it's the blue sheet is really what it is, and when we bring it back to you, it will be blue again. But we had highlighted items, 5 items on here, or 6 lines on here. Item H was the non-instructional 7-8. And when Ms. Penna made her presentation to the board at the all-day meeting, I believe on the 18th, she had indicated that it was 1 full FTE, but there was as the document was prepared, it had come forward that day on the blue sheet. So your blue sheet says 4.5, which would be a half an FTE. So these are some technical changes that we wanted to make the board aware of. So when we bring the blue sheet back, that they're aware of these changes. The next two, I and J, were both listed at 2.7 for 9 through 12 and 7 through 8. And unfortunately, we hadn't included the alternative ed schools in that piece. So the idea, Ms. Penna went back and worked with Shannon to say, well, how much is 7-8? And it was a little bit lower. So we moved that up into the 9-12, and then we actually added a 0.2 overall. So it was 5.4 before, as 2.7 and 2.7, and now it's 5.6. So that was just including the alternative eds. We had intended to include those, and so that's the change to that one.
Okay.
The mental health therapists and the behavior support specialists, I believe yours says 4 for line AA and 1 for line AB. Is that correct?
Yes.
This was a shift that was recommended by Mr. Cerruti to provide better coverage, and there's kind of in the parentheses there for those two positions throughout the district. So it was a shift with very minimal, if any, costs. And I believe off the top of my head it might be a small savings. So those are changes that, as we reviewed it again in cabinet after we'd met with the board on the 18th, those are recommended changes. And the final one is that we'd brought the augmentation to the Indian education program together and just brought the additional FTE and not the full amount that had gone away from the grant. So I believe the amount you have is around $25,000, and so this now includes some non-salary type expenditures. So those are just, when we bring the blue sheet back to you, scheduled for the 10th, those changes will be what we're proposing to bring back, just so the board is aware of them. And they were just mostly technical type of things.
Oh, I got you now.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll have all of the changes, like as he said, at the next workshop.
So the next
meeting.
piece is mine as well.
All right.
And this is, we put together the recommendations, funding considerations from the board on, and I'm magically getting the show up over here, from the recommendations that we got from the board on the 18th. And so what we wanted to do is come back and go through them. We've now put costs associated with them, and then we've also, from a cabinet perspective, made a comment on whether cabinet supports the recommendation or not, and we can speak to any questions about why or why not. I have my whole crew with me if we need to get down into it. So the first page, the first slide talks about the summer school child care for Daler. So the estimate for that is $10,000, and staff's recommending the use of that. We think there's $10,000 somewhere in the summer school program that we can probably cover that out of, so that would not be an additional cost.
Okay.
The next one, this one was a little tricky, and I think there was a long discussion. But the general tenure of the question was, how much do we need to put in to fund 100% of the reductions that were made to site supply allocations going back to the recession? So I'll try to explain this, and I'll answer any questions. So to fully restore the site supplies, it's $807,000. You may look at some old sheets if you keep them from years back. It might be a little bit higher, but the numbers have dropped a little bit, so that might be a little bit lower. So, we've made an allocation on the buff colored sheet that the board approved on the 18th for $212,500, I think, for one time, and $212,000 for ongoing, to restore $425,000 in these site supplies. So the difference between the 807 and the 425 better be the 382 that we have up there. And so based on the discussion that the board had on the 18th, staff has gone back, and we're going to recommend that we move the 212 that was still one time from the buff over to be ongoing, and then suggest that we close half the gap again from a one-time basis of the 380 for providing $191,000 as part of the one-time allocations. Does that make sense? So we'd now be about 75%-ish away, because I think we're a little over half now, so we'd be maybe 75 or 80% of the way. And then we could look at down the road at doing something different with either one-time or ongoing. So that was our kind of take on listening to the board have the discussion on the 18th.
Yeah, the other thought process goes along with that is we are in the middle of doing a site funding overall process to make sure. So this would give us an additional one-time option in 16, 17, and then we'll be bringing a longer-term plan with regards to site budgets moving forward. So that's why we didn't recommend putting it all in ongoing right away.
Okay.
Okay. So the board made simply one recommendation that they thought that there was a need for one additional behavior support specialist. I think we did make an adjustment in that area, and I don't know if that satisfies the board. And certainly this isn't it's something that we'd want to discuss, but I believe and I'll look to Mark to say, was the shift from one to the other part of this, or did it include this as well? Because we're recommending adding this additional FD. So it's in conjunction with the shift, we would still recommend the addition of this one, and we supported the recommendation of the board on that one.
Good.
Okay. Additional EL coaches. The staff's not recommending this at this time. We think that the number is probably more like 5 if we did do it. And I think, Mark, there was it's kind of drawn on a blank now, but it's something that we are looking to down the road, but we feel the other pieces are probably something we want to do sooner.
Yeah, too much. Just to keep it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there's already 6 split in
Right.
Okay, for next year. The food nutrition services piece. This is a recommendation that we've discussed a while ago. Now, the question on this one was supplemental and concentration. Staff's recommendation in this one, and the same question with the classroom equipment piece. We looked at it again. The kids that are served by the food nutrition program are predominantly free and reduced students. This is something that, as we go forward, it's something that if we want to continue running the program at the level that we have and make the contribution, we think it meets all the criteria to supporting, given that the bulk of the kids are free and reduced. And in the classroom equipment piece, we kind of took a look at that, and there were some schools this year that might not be necessarily in that supplemental concentration area, and certainly as we go forward, this is something we'd want to do across all schools. So staff's recommending that we don't count those one-time expenditures next year as supplemental concentration. They would be counted more as base. So I think that concludes all of the notes that we took of board recommendations from the 18th, so we'd be glad to hear some feedback from the board and direction on the board, so that when we come back on the 10th, we will include or not include the items that are on this list.
All right, questions or comments for Mr. Fagan? Yes? No? Ms. Titus Espinosa?
Sure. Just thank you very much for being responsive to all of those. And I think I agree with all of the recommendations. In some places you guys have changed my mind, and I appreciate the explanation, so thank you very much.
Again, echo that comment. Thank you very much for the recommendations. Also, I just wanted to note in a conversation I had earlier with the superintendent, there was a question brought about custodial work as well at some of the school sites. And then if you can elaborate as to why we're focusing on grounds at this point in time, if you can just, for a point of clarification.
So we're kind of back on the blue list, not on this list. I believe, and Mr. Pierce will probably walk up behind me if I'm wrong, I believe this gets us back to once a week lawn mowing at all of the elementary schools.
Yeah, the other comment is we did add custodial in last year's process, and it was considered again this year. Grounds was the recommendation because with routine 16 restricted maintenance. We have done some other additions that support custodial work. I mean, it's because they've had to do some things that might not necessarily be custodial. So we've increased maintenance. We have increased custodial last year, and so the place we hadn't done an increase was grounds, and it does get us to the once-a-week mowing. So that's why we made that recommendation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the report.
Mr. Perez?
I guess, yeah, that'll work on this one. We go back from this one to, it's number 4, right, slide?
What are you referring to? We don't know.
Yeah, this one right here. Let's start with this one. I kind of disagree with this particular slide here. Classroom replacement, you know, I think that should be coming from base budget.
That's the recommendation, Mr. Perez. On the right-hand column?
So what, staff supports the funds as base, okay, great. Food nutrition, you said earlier that was going to be a loan from what?
This is for next year, so this would be an actual contribution to support the program.
Again, I think this should be from base. If you loan money from this year, from the base, about the same amount, right? You're going to loan?
Well, it's just the way that the money is put in there. It's put in to make sure they're solvent over the end of the fiscal year.
Yes,
and then
but
we'll address their ongoing needs.
Well, when you take money away using on food nutrition, that takes away supplemental concentration monies, direct service to students, low-income students, English language learners, and foster youth during that fiscal year, correct?
I think the
So
reasoning behind it is that the program, Food Nutrition Services, predominantly serves the targeted students.
But prior to Prop 30 and LCFF, we used base money, general funds, didn't we?
We haven't supported the food services program for some time, and when we did support it, there was a separate amount of money that came to the general fund, the Meals for Needy Pupils Fund,
right,
that was used to support any shortfalls they had or any one-time items they need. But since that money went away as part of the long-term creation of the LCFF, we haven't had to make a contribution to food services.
So do you think that passed muster with the state of California Department of Education? We could use it for nutrition services?
It's very early in the process, and so that's using the lens and the filters that we've used to make the decisions on all the items. We felt that this one would stay in that category, or at least be taken forward in that manner.
So this is a one-time issue?
This is a one-time for next year, but I'll be back in April with Michelle, and she's going to kind of run through the needs. There will be an ongoing amount going forward that we will need to continue the program as it is now, all the breakfast, all the lunch, all the education, nutrition education, that there'll be an ongoing need to support the
And one thing that fits to this, when we talk about increasing or improving service, so the reason this cost is coming up is because we're improving the food that the kids are receiving, and the costs associated with that are greater. So the report that Mrs. Drake will share will show why it's costing us more, the federal regulations, and also the quality of the food that we're providing to our kids. So it's an improved service over what we've provided in the past, and it used to be that the cafeteria funds covered that piece. Right now, that's not the case, and so we're going to have to make a decision once we get, and we'll figure out exactly what it means. That's what the presentation of the board will be about. But likely, we're going to have to make a contribution ongoing, so it'll be a little bit special ed-like in that we have these regulations, we want to provide the service, but we're not receiving the funds in a payback from the federal government at a rate that allows us to do it at the rate and the quality which we want to do it.
Okay. So that most likely cut down the food line waiting for food during lunchtime also, right?
We think we've done as well as we can, but we're always responding to questions at particular schools where they think that the wait is too long. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors in the food
salad
lines.
bars, more salad bars?
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily improve the lines.
We're getting off subject here.
All right.
Micromanaging how that works.
Next one right before that was additional EL coaches. Yeah, 6.0 full-time equivalents. And you propose to do what again?
There's already 6 of them in the proposal, and the recommendation will be that we fund those 6 for 16-17, and that we will likely, depending on, how funding moves forward, we'll bring an additional 5 for 17-18.
We're going to add?
We're proposing for 16-17, the addition of 6 coaches.
Right.
And re-looking at it, we think that number is 5 moving forward, and we'll make that recommendation likely. I can't promise that it will be there, but the plan is right now that that's a 2-year piece, 6 this year, 5 next year.
They will be coming out of supplemental concentration monies?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Any other questions? Mr. Fortino?
Thank you. I'm really pleased with the information that came forward in terms of addressing some of the concerns we had stated at our workshop. Certainly we see that providing for summer education for our teen parents is a minimal issue. I mean, $10,000, and so I'm just pleased that came forward. When I look at the restoration issue that we requested, I'm pleased on one side that we're going to go to a 75% level from original reduction. I'd rather see 100%, but I also support the fact that you'll be participating in an overall site funding review. So I see it as a compromise, and since I'm not running for president, I can compromise.
And I'd remind you that there's about 800,000, a little over 800,000 distributed on a targeted student basis as well.
Yeah.
So they've got some site money,
Some
at least for
things.
next year, until we can get the new plan put in place.
Right. And then, in previous budget cycles, and for my colleagues who are new, I had pushed very hard for several years, had been bloodied through the entire process of seeking information on all of the funds, not just our general fund. And I think we know that information was not forthcoming for quite a long time. And one of the points, well, there were several issues that were germane to the request. One certainly is to have a complete understanding of your budget. I think that's basic to our responsibility. If we approve the budget, we have to know what the entire budget is, not just one fund in the budget. But one thing that came up repeatedly was that I really didn't need the information, because after all, those funds are just for those purposes that they address, and it's really not a big issue. And yet here we are, we're coming around, and we're going to be supporting supposedly a fund that was self-sufficient, had nothing to do with the general fund, with general fund dollars. So, for me, we've come full circle. It's important to know not only what the income sources are for all of the funds of the budget, but also whether or not we see any implications to the way in which they are structured fiscally, so that we know ahead of time that there might be issues coming down the line that we're going to have to address. So you brought it last year, and I was appreciative.
And we plan to bring it every year for adopted, and
right.
And if the contribution is part of it, you'll see the contribution.
We'll have that opportunity to discuss.
Yeah.
And then this is one subject I find it so difficult for me to not talk about, and that's the reserve. I mean, we're going to $117 million, and you did answer the question, and I already knew the answer to the question, but one way you get to reserves is not spending your income, but we get income to spend the money on children's programs. So I really hope we can get to that point and address the philosophy of reserve, what it should look like, what the cap should be, so that we identify dollars that we can use for funding. Example being full restoration of supplies instead of partial. I just throw that one out on the table. But the restoration of the non-site reductions that come from the guidelines, because we have a myriad of positions that were reduced or frozen, and we just have work to do. And so for me, it's just hard to see the reserve increase every year or the surplus increase every year. I don't support deficit spending. I've said that before. But when you have surplus all the time, that's not deficit funding. That's
We're going to ask you for a deficit.
The only way to spend into the reserve is deficit spending. So I want to make absolutely clear, the budget that we're bringing forward, the priorities that we put in place, there is deficit spending. $25 million of the $60 million in one-time dollars are set to be spent based on the recommendations we've made so far. We are not deficit spending with regards to ongoing dollars.
Right.
And if we do that,
yeah,
that's bad.
I can't. Yeah, then I don't sleep at night.
I don't know anybody who supports.
And so we are
ongoing.
And we did show that at our special meeting, that as soon as you put that those additional one-time dollars in there, it will be a deficit spend, and the county office is going to say, "Hey, you realize your deficit spending, right?" And we're going to say, "Yes, we realize it. We're spending into this reserve, but we are doing one time, not ongoing."
Right.
And they'll only see it in 16, 17, 18. It won't be that significant of a deficit if it's not.
And I appreciate that. You know, this is the fourth budget cycle I participated in, and by far, it has more clarity. It has more thoughtfulness. I believe, personally, it's been more inclusive in terms of the generation of the information from bottom up as we looked at LCAP and our priorities. So, I mean, I just see the entire process as being really positive, really open. It's transparent, it's accountable, and I'm glad we're going in the direction we're going in. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Fortuna. Anyone else? Ms. Albiani?
Thank you for this information. I just wanted to say that I agree with the staff recommendations.
All right. No, nothing? Okay. Well, I too, I just want to make sure I don't cut you off. Yeah, I think I echo definitely most strongly with Ms. Albiani in that I support the staff recommendations for reasons being, I think you've done an excellent job of being reasonable and justified and have a thoughtful and methodical phase-in approach. Because again, the governor keeps warning us time and time again about, the sort of the future economic downturn that is going to happen, and restrain from excessive spending so that we're not in a situation where we're fully funding one year and cutting another year. So I want to, be very mindful that we just don't spend, and then be in that horrible place that I know my colleague Mr. Madison was in several years ago of cutting. Hopefully we don't get into that position. So I definitely appreciate your thoughtfulness in bringing this in a very manageable way so that we're not overextending our resources. So everybody that was part of this, kudos to all of you. You're truly experts in your field, and we respect highly your decision-making because you're using the decision-making model. Going to get you back on the hook there, Mr. Cerruti.
As a check for understanding, we will, as recommended by staff, add these to the blue sheet and bring it to the March 10th.
And March 10th. Looking forward to it. Thank you, sir. All right, we do not have a facilities update, so moving on to bargaining units. I would like to ask if any bargaining unit wishes to address the board. Oh, I know.
So if I sound like I've got a frog in my throat, I'm sorry. I'll apologize ahead of time. Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Mr. Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I'm Kathleen Tion, President of EGEA. EGEA and EGUSD have a long history of collaboration in order to better serve our students and make this the best district it can be. Recruiting, retaining, and supporting educators will play a huge role in moving the district forward, especially given the upcoming teacher shortage. I'm sorry. The collaboration between EGA and EGUSD is evident in the recent pilot agreement to change our transfer process to allow the management to recruit employees in a more timely fashion. We are hopeful this will be a benefit to our district and look forward to seeing the results. However, this agreement alone will not solve the teacher shortage, and there is much work to be done. We look forward to working with the management to continue looking at creative solutions to solve those complex issues. With the recovering economy and increased funding to education the past few years, EGUSD, through negotiations, has made good strides in restoring vital staff, programs, supports, including increased compensation, as the district's Sunshine proposal drew attention to. Recently, the board discussed the budget priorities created through the development of the LCAP for the 2016-17 school year. Management has engaged with various stakeholders through the LCAP process. EGA's input into the LCAP priorities were very general in nature, knowing that these complex priorities require in-depth conversations. Our general list was never intended for management to use in building specific budget priorities to be approved by the board before our respective negotiation teams work together. It is through collaborative negotiations where creative solutions are produced that will meet the interest of both management and the association. We realize it was the management's interest and intent to address all stakeholders' priorities when creating the budget priority list. EGA believes these are reasonable priorities that may be beneficial to the district. However, it is questionable that these priorities will fully address our intended interests without necessary collaborative conversations. Furthermore, we are concerned with the timing. Negotiations have just started, and some of the listed priorities are issues to be addressed in bargaining and will have an effect on our membership. While we appreciate management reserving a reasonable amount of funds for negotiations, it will limit our ability to creatively negotiate. We strongly urge the board wait until negotiations are further along or completed before authorizing over $36 million in new expenditures for 2016-17. This way, the board, management, and bargaining units can all make more informed decisions about the budget priorities for 2016-17. A fully engaged bargaining process is the fabric of collaboration and demonstrates appreciation for the hours EGA members devote to our students, both during and beyond the contract day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sehan. Any other bargaining unit wishing to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our public hearing action items. First up, we have our consideration and public notice of AFSCME's initial proposal to the district regarding collective bargaining for the 2016-17 school year. Mr. David Riley.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. Pursuant to Government Code Section 3547, the following are stipulated for negotiations between a bargaining unit and the district. The union's initial proposal is officially presented at a public meeting of the governing board for public notice, and a public hearing is conducted to receive public input regarding the union's initial proposal. AFSCME's initial proposal is included in your board materials. It is recommended that after the closure of the public hearing, the board take action to accept AFSCME's initial proposal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riley. I would like to call for a public hearing to receive comments on AFSCME's initial proposal to the district regarding collective bargaining for the 2016 and 2017 school year. Oh, wait, we're just doing the public hearing right now. No worries. We're excited too. All right, with that, no, I'm just looking. Now we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion to accept AFSCME's initial proposal to the Elk Grove Unified School District regarding collective bargaining for 2016-17 school year. I think we have a motion from Ms. Alviani. And a second from Mr. Madison. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Riley again on consideration and public notice of Elk Grove Unified School District's EGUSD initial proposal to PISWA regarding collective bargaining for the 2016 and 17 school year.
So pursuant to the Government Code, Section 3547, which I delineated in the previous item, and you'll see EGUSD's initial proposal in your board agenda materials. It's recommended that after the closure of the public hearing, the board take action to approve the district's initial proposal to PISWA.
Thank you, sir. I would like to call for a public hearing to receive comments on Elk Grove Unified School District's initial proposal to PISWA regarding collective bargaining for 2016-17 school year. All right, I will close the public hearing and call for a motion to approve Elk Grove Unified School District's initial proposal to PISWA regarding collective bargaining for the 2016 and 17 school year. Motion to approve for Mr. Fortuna and a second for Mr. Madison. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, discussion items. As you recall at the beginning, the local education agency plan has been moved to a future agenda item.
Oh.
So we have now the California Montessori Project Charter Petition Renewal Board discussion. Ms. Kathy Hamilton.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, board members, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I'm here tonight to give you our initial staff report about the renewal petition from the California Montessori Project. Wow, how did it get up there magically? Steve's over there. Okay. All right, so as you may know, the California Montessori Project has operated an Elk Grove campus for a number of years. The campus was first authorized in 2001 by the Wheatland School District. At that time, state law allowed school districts to, or LEAs, to authorize charter schools outside of their boundaries. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 1994 and 2002, charter schools needed to be located in the boundaries of their charter authorizing agencies. And so in 2006, the CMP came to the Elk Grove Unified School District and petitioned to us for authorization. We renewed the charter in 2011, and they're back to have us renew it again. Currently, there are two campuses serving 457 students. One campus, as you may know, is just around the corner on Elk Grove Boulevard and in the old Elk Grove Elementary School building. And the other campus is just south of Elk Grove Boulevard on Bradshaw. Both campuses have a number of accomplishments in the last 5 years. Just to highlight a few, the school has been accredited by both the American Montessori Society and WASC for its grade 7 and 8 programming. The new campus opened on Bradshaw Road in 2014, constructed with funding from Prop 55, which provides funds for facilities for charter schools. In recent years, the school has enhanced its technological infrastructures, just like we have, in response to the needs not only for online testing, but increased opportunities for online instruction. Elk Grove CMP has employed 2 deans of students. One serves at each campus, and they provide additional support for professional development and other staff assistance. And teachers and parents enrolled or participating in this school have raised over $48,000 through a variety of fundraising efforts in the last 3 years to supplement their programming. As you can imagine, the school has a number of future goals. These include installing 4 portable classrooms at the Bradshaw campus to better accommodate the middle school students. Designation, in fact, of a separate middle school complex at that campus, and employment of a testing coordinator to help guide database decision-making and the inquiry-based Montessori curriculum. So, as we go into the technical process of our work, I know that you've recently participated in the extensive review of a new petition. When we get a renewal petition, we use a slightly different set of lenses. The accountability for renewed charters really comes down to, are they making an impact on students? Do they improve pupil learning? Are they meeting measurable pupil outcomes? So we look for things. The charter petitioners still have to give us a petition, and CMP gave us a very, very extensive documentation. But when we look at it, instead of just looking for alignment with the required elements in Ed Code, we also look at, are they making increases in pupil achievement for all groups? We recognize that the purpose of charter schools is to provide autonomy, innovation, and public school choice for families, particularly because when the state authorized charter schools, the thought was that we could see improved student performance if families had more options. And so our renewal decisions are primarily based on our evaluation of past performance. At the same time, we do look at where they're intending to go in the future. So there's one minimum requirement for charter schools seeking renewal, and that is that they must attain at least one of the four measures of pupil performance identified by Ed Code. And interestingly enough, 3 of the 4 are based on API, which we know was suspended a couple of years ago. Nonetheless, this is the measure that we work with, and CMP Elk Grove fulfilled both number 1 and number 2, so they've more than achieved this requirement. Beyond the minimal requirement, there are several critical criteria that we consider for renewal. Starting with, is the academic program a success? Is the school organization effectively led and managed? We want to know if the school is being operated prudently and meeting all regulatory requirements, and is it faithful to the terms of its charter and its MOU? Finally, we come back around to the 16 elements and the supplemental information that we looked at with the new proposal, the new petition last month, and we do want to make sure that they are still in alignment with those state requirements. The California Montessori Project Elk Grove Charter School generally meets these requirements. We did identify one area for corrective action, and we've also asked for clarification or revision on a few others. So I'll briefly tell you about that. The corrective action has to do with developing a plan to ensure that the enrollment of the student population at the 2 campuses is reflective of the racial and ethnic balance of the Elk Grove Unified School District community, or communities, I should say. So the current status of the data that we evaluated showed disproportionality in the enrollment in the areas of white students, African American, Asian students, English learners, and economically disadvantaged students. We also saw that there were fairly generic recruitment strategies and enrollment preferences that may impede opportunities to recruit a more diverse population that reflects our communities. So we shared this with CMP, this observation with CMP last week, and within 2 days they had provided us with an initial plan for corrective action that has a number of preliminary steps that they intend to take, including advertisements in local media in multiple languages, development of promotional materials that can be distributed in multiple languages, participation in a number of community events, and recruitment and invitation to families to visit their campuses from there. Continuing to build relationships with a number of preschools, including Head Start, as a way to recruit families who might be interested in a Montessori approach. Targeting information to a number of community centers and faith-based organizations, and also continuing to provide their facilities to host community events and help expose families to the services that they offer. Additionally, they have expressed that they are very willing to collaborate with us to determine additional strategies, up to being open to offering satellite campuses in other areas of our district that might attract a more diverse population. So the other areas of clarification aren't many, and this list is actually dwindling as we go because CMP staff has been very responsive to our requests for either more information or clarification or even revisions. The first 5 bullets I expect to actually be addressed by the time I come back here in 2 weeks and ask you to take action on this renewal petition. CMP has responded to all of our requests for information. The only thing that prevents me from taking the first 5 bullets off this list are that I'm simply waiting for response from my colleagues who are reviewing CMP's response. The last 2 bullets are areas where CMP intends to organize committees and take new plans to its board before it can share revisions with us. So, like I said, I expect that when I come back in 2 weeks that all of these issues will be addressed. So, so as I said, we're in the process of reporting out. I'm still waiting to hear from several colleagues. We will be back in 2 weeks to ask you to take action to either approve or deny the CMP Elk Grove renewal petition. If you act to approve, we will also ask you either on that night or in the first April meeting to approve a memorandum of understanding that will define the operational agreements between our school district and CMP. We're looking at, obviously, a variety of minor updates like dates and titles and locations. But we are also in the process of looking at language that will help support our goals that they address disproportionality, as well as language regarding LCFF and LCAP, because those are new developments since the MOU was last developed. We're interested in looking at better defining the process that we use in our annual evaluation of the charter school, and clarifying how we can best provide targeted assistance or professional development if it's requested. So with that, I will let you ask questions if you have any.
Excellent. I'm going to put Ms. Martinez-Alaire in the hot seat here, only because she happens to be a parent. Before we begin any dialogue on this, I would love to hear some of your experiences as a parent, if you don't mind sharing, because I know that your daughter goes there.
Yes, I have to give a very positive, perspective of the campus, and again, the staff, and as far as administration, very responsive, very engaging to the students and representation, and also welcome the opportunity for further exploration regarding cultural participation. I had my daughter's teacher approach me and ask me if I'd be willing to go in to speak to the class specifically regarding the American Indian population and the culture. And so they do enhance diversity. I see that as a very important role and model, and as well as giving students opportunities to engage independently and be a, creative thinker outside of the box. So I appreciate that and the responses that I've gotten from administration in regards to any concerns that may come up as a parent, their openness and willingness to have a open dialogue with all the students and parents. It creates a welcome environment, I must say.
Thank you. That's very helpful to have that parent lens as well. Any other questions or comments from colleagues? Mr. Perez?
regarding the enrollment issue, you mentioned you're going to go over there within 2 weeks to review the corrective action, but then in your comment or your presentation, you're going to go back within a year to do the annual review. What goes on between the 2 weeks you're going to be there and the annual? Are you going to be doing also reviews of maybe checking records about the enrollment process, the numbers?
Well, before we start the year, we'll make sure that we have a plan in place that we all agree is reasonable and should produce changes, targets for change. We won't be able to see if that's been effective until a year has passed, because that's the rate that our data comes. Typically, charter schools, especially if they're in good standing, are not scrutinized more frequently than once a year. So I don't think that we will be checking more frequently than annually to see if we're seeing change. If we don't see change after a year or two, then that's a different conversation.
So I imagine there's probably a big waiting list on this because.
They do have waiting lists, yes.
And so what's the ethnic makeup on the waiting list?
We haven't looked at that. That wasn't data that we requested.
So would those targeted communities, would they be prioritized?
The targeted communities?
Right.
Well, and so that is part of the conversation that we will be having with them is what are their priorities? How do they make choices with regards to their priorities? But it is because they do have a waiting list, it's a lottery. And so I know in conversation with Mr. Bowman, the executive director who's here tonight, and Ms. Mers, the principal, they know that their goal is to really increase a more diverse interest, because it will fall back on the lottery, and they can't select a more diverse population through a lottery unless they have a more diverse applicant pool. So that's what they've identified as their first area, is to increase their outreach in other areas to other populations in order to increase a more diverse applicant pool.
The last thing I want to mention is that at the California School Board Association meeting, I'm pretty sure there was a workshop on LCFF and LCAP, roles, responsibilities of board members, of monitoring to make sure they're compliance too.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are not responsible for monitoring their LCFF and their LCAP. It's presented to us as a courtesy, but we are offering to provide assistance and guidance to the degree that they seek what we have to offer.
Mr. Forcina?
Yeah, Kathy, when you look at disproportionality, do you look at a cumulative number or is it by site?
Cumulative number?
Yeah, do you look at a number that based on the combination of both sites, or do you look at it by site?
Yes, it was for the combined campuses. It was for the school, which is Elk Grove Elk Grove CMP is one school with 2 campuses. So we looked at the combination.
Okay, and as you look at that and some of the other issues you have here, do we mitigate some of those numbers as a result of location of the site? Like
do we take into
yeah,
account
I mean the Bradshaw location is not necessarily what one would call convenient.
Yeah, no, so that's a very good question. What CMP provided us was with a comparison to selected Elk Grove campuses. We have asked them to provide a few more campuses so we feel like we're getting a true picture of the South area. And so when I say we still have some ongoing conversation going, that's part of our conversation is what are we comparing it to, because we don't want to compare apples and oranges. So CMP initially provided us with, I think, 8 campuses, a comparison to 8 campuses that was a blend of either those in this South Elk Grove region, Old Town region, and other campuses from which they draw students, what their home school would have been. So we asked them to add 4 more campuses that were also in this same general South area region. And so that's when we say that we see disproportionality, that's the lens that we're using to look at it, is if we were comparing CMP Bradshaw, for example, to Markoffer or Donner or Herberger.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Madison?
Yeah, I just have a comment, of course, the questions about where the campus is located and how they're serving all students, so I appreciate that. And I also just want to thank you and your colleagues on the work they do on this. I think when we look at charter schools, we look at the lens that we certainly want to service our students and the needs of it. And we don't need, I call, bad charter schools in our district because they serve no purpose at all. And so I just want to compliment you and your staff on that, because the reports we get, we've had various charter schools are wanting to come in our area, and we turn them down, at least in my tenure on this board. And we do a good, thorough job on it, too. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we do. And, I also want to extend that compliment to CMP. They know how high a regard we have for the quality of education of our families, and I think they're right there with us.
They are, and we appreciate that.
Any other comments? Just sort of my final comments to add to all of the discussion here. I definitely want to recognize CMP as an example of what a successful charter looks like. Kudos to you on your accomplishments over the last several years. I think that's quite remarkable. I love seeing the measures of pupil performance. I think that is outstanding, outstanding news and the trends that we're seeing. I appreciate Ms. Hamilton, you identifying the critical areas for the renewal and really separating from, for us, reviewing a new petition versus a renewal petition, because it is a different lens that we look through, because we know that, you got approval because you did meet certain criteria, and so now we're going to renew based on making sure that you are fulfilling those needs. So I really appreciate that you really broke it down, given that we've just come out of reviewing a new petition process. I also really appreciate the partnership and the collaboration between the district and CMP to address the corrective action plan that shows a good faith on both sides that you are working through this in the best interest of our students. So I wanted to recognize and commend you on that positive collaboration, because really to meet those corrective actions, I see that it is sort of a dual process. It's a partnership. You're working with both sides, that it's not just sort of left for you to go figure out on your own, that you are having that ongoing dialogue, which I think is absolutely necessary. And then again, I appreciate that you pointing out that CMP is responsive on the areas of clarification and revision, again reinforcing the collaboration that I see between the two entities. So I wanted to recognize all of the great work from CMP, and then also recognize you and your staff for really breaking this down for us and making it very easy to understand. So thank you for that.
Okay,
And
we'll be
thank
back
you.
in 2 weeks.
Thank you. And in that, I will make it a point to come out and see the site. All right, moving on our agenda. We do not have any discussion action items, so we are discussion/action items. Action items for number 1, we have resolution of non-reelection of probationary certificated employees. Mr. Riley.
Good evening.
Evening.
A non-reelection is a process that puts a certificated probationary employee on notice that his or her employment contract will not be renewed for the following school year. Education Code Section 4429.21 authorizes the governing board to give notice to a probationary certificated employee of the board's decision to non-reelect the employee for the next succeeding school year to such a position at any time prior to March 15th of the employee's second complete consecutive school year of employment by the district. The Board of Education is asked to adopt the resolution attached to non-reelect the certificated employees as itemized in Exhibit A, and that the superintendent or his designee be directed to send appropriate notices to all employees whose services shall be terminated by virtue of this action.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riley. Any questions? All right, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt resolution Number 44, authorizing the governing board to non-reelect probationary certificated employees.
I move to adopt Resolution 44.
All right, we have a motion to adopt from Mr. Fortuna, a second from Mr. Madison. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Riley again. Number 2, resolution and non-reelection of long-term substitute and temporary employees.
Thank you. The district has employed the long-term substitute and temporary staff during the 2015-16 school year. The board is asked to release these employees pursuant to Education Code Section 44954 and 44929.21. It is anticipated that some of the staff may be rehired for the 2016-17 school year when staffing figures are finalized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley. I would like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 43, authorizing the governing board to release and non-reemploy long-term substitute and temporary certificated staff. A motion to approve from Mr. Perez and a second from Mr. Madison. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have National Nutrition Month. I'd like to call on Ms. Michelle Drake, if absent, Mr. Fagan.
Yeah.
Okay.
If absent.
I should have looked up before I read the notes.
If you know Michelle, she rarely misses work, but I think
Okay.
she's got the whatever the croup is that's going around the flu, and so
Oh,
she
yeah.
is home desperately ill. So I said, not a problem. I can read her resolution
Excellent,
just as well
thank
as she
you.
could. So the board is asked to designate the month of March as National Nutrition Month. National Nutrition Month is sponsored annually by the American Dietetics Association and Food Nutrition Services. The campaign focuses attention on the importance of making informed food choices and develop sound eating and physical activity habits. The theme for 2016 is Savor the Flavor of Eating Right, which encourages everyone to take time to enjoy food traditions and appreciate the pleasure, great flavors, and social experience food can add to our lives. This year's key messages for National Nutrition Month is that how, when, why, where, and where we eat are just as important as what we eat. The goal is to develop mindful eating patterns that include nutritious and flavorful foods. That is the best way to savor the flavor of eating right. I ask the board to approve March as National Nutrition Month. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan.
For a first reading, that was pretty good.
I'd like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 40, designating March 2016 as National Nutrition Month.
So moved.
Motion to approve, Ms. Chaitis Espinosa.
Second.
Second, Ms. Albiani. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, next up, we have Civic Learning Resolution, Ms. Zanthi Pinkerton.
Good evening, Ms. Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. So I'm asking for you to adopt, the board to adopt the Citizenship and Civic Learning Resolution number 45. Whereas one of the key elements of the Elk Grove Unified School District's graduate profile is to ensure that upon graduation, students are not only ready for college and career, but they have the skills, experiences, and mindsets to be engaged in the community as individuals with integrity. And whereas during this presidential election of 2016, there is no more appropriate time to emphasize to students the values, obligations, and opportunities of citizenship and civic engagement, and whereas our schools must be key sources encouraging all students to learn about the history and values of our democracy and how a great understanding of both is essential to becoming informed and responsible citizens, and whereas as we work to promote good citizenship by offering community service hours to our students, we must remain committed to ensuring our ongoing implementation of California standards includes instruction and civics and fostering early on in students through activities like student governance, the habits, curiosity, and leadership skills to be active, proud, and productive citizens. And whereas we must also continue to seek out opportunities to model democratic processes, identify civic service-related extracurricular activities, encourage dialogue regarding current and controversial events and issues, and champion the study of history as essential to becoming citizens enriched to make more informed decisions for today and the future. And whereas it is evident and beneficial that purposeful and effective civic engagement entails a bounty of other critical habits of good citizenship, including collaboration, communication, teamwork, respect for the opinions of others, coherent and courteous debate, fact-based reasoning, community pride, cultural sensitivity, and shared leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Elk Grove Unified School District strongly supports teaching about and modeling good citizenship for all students, as well as promoting diverse opportunities, both time-tested and innovative, to enhance civic literacy for all students beginning at an early age. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the Elk Grove Unified School District commits to lead by example by actively reaching out to students, parents, teachers, and community members to get input and develop ideas to establish a robust set of civic engagement opportunities and resources to benefit all students.
All right, well, this is something very near and dear to my heart, so I will move the motion to adopt resolution number 45, where the Elk Grove Unified School District recognizes the importance of a robust set of civic engagement opportunities and resources to benefit all students, where it leads by example by actively reaching out to students, parents, teachers, and community members to get input and develop ideas. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Forcina. All those in favor, please? Yes.
I like this very much, but, maybe we need to go further and develop a civic education class where it's required that they pass the tests or the curriculum of study of this class to graduate. This is really good, but it doesn't,
That's off topic, but I understand, we can have that dialogue at the appropriate time.
so,
There is a civics education requirement in 12th grade,
really?
Yes.
graduation requirement.
Okay, what, does it also entail that they have to have, by the age of 18, registered to vote?
You can't make somebody,
Selective service requirement, you actually can't require voting.
There's some states
Selective
they're thinking
service.
about that.
Well, thinking about it and
Some
what's in
districts
the
are
class
crazy.
are
not
two
the law
different
though.
things.
Anyways, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Board member and superintendent reports. Anyone?
Madam President, although I don't have a current report, we are in the process of scheduling our 2x2 with our colleagues at the Community Services District. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll have something to report.
Thank you. Mr. Forcina.
Yes, I have one since I was absent at the last meeting. I attended the Elk Grove High School FFA Steering Committee meeting that I sit on and represent the board on. And that was quite a beneficial meeting in terms of hearing from a number of students who are preparing for speech competition, as well as looking at what the immediate requirements were, and we did approve several grants that needed to be submitted. Certainly when, all of our FFA programs are strong, but certainly Mike Albiani shows the benefit of age and experience. Just when one looks at the entire structure of that steering committee and the broad-based representation, and that's really probably the important piece on that steering committee, is the broad-based representation. But as we looked at program needs, and certainly Mr. Pierce and his staff have done an amazing job, Elk Grove FFA, as well as certainly Elk Grove High School, has fairly significant safety needs. When we discussed the issue of safety at the steering committee meeting, one thing that was really paramount in everyone's mind is the issue of the need for a ventilation system for welding and metal fabrication. Hopefully we're going to have success with the bond we're proposing. Irrespective of whether we are successful or not, however, the exercise of prioritizing what will be done and when will be an interesting topic of discussion for us, because the people at Elk Grove High School believe they're first for everything, and as you go to the other 66 sites, you would probably get the same statement: we should be first. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but and Mr. Hoffman and I have had a discussion about reserves, and and funding capital projects. I understand it. I completely agree. It's just hard for me to look at dollars in a bank account when there are site issues that border on safety. And so, hopefully we'll be able to resolve those with the passage of the bond. So, thank you.
Anybody else have a report?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'd like to report. I did attend the Elk Grove Regional Scholarship Foundation meeting this past week, and we've got roughly offering about 184 scholarships that will be given out, and it will be held again on Spotlight on the Scholarship at First Baptist Church on, I think, May 5th. So we look to your support to be out there. That's a heck of a lot of scholarships for our kids in our district here. And also, I just want to acknowledge the Elk Grove Unified Schools' 15th annual middle school leadership conference. It was a huge success last week. I was there. I think you can correct me, Ms. Penn, I think over 200 kids or so were there. Every middle school was represented there. And I just want to give the support and thanks to Ms. Penna and all the counselors, the activities directors at each school, and the teachers for their support. I mean, it was one a good speaker and future leaders in our district there. So it was well done, and hopefully next year we'll have a lot of board members out there. I think some of it was maybe the communication that some said they didn't get the
We didn't get it. We would love to
a
have
lot
gone.
of it. So
It
was
wasn't
out
on the
there.
calendar, and that's where it might have been in other communication pieces, but I didn't see it on the calendar. I've gone every year, and so is Mr. Forcina. And so I was bummed when I got the backpack with the T-shirt going, oh, it's already happened. So I'm sure, I know that we communicate through various means, but I always use those, the calendars that we get every week to schedule what I'm interested in. So if I missed it somewhere else, because in years past it's always been there, and so that's at least what I use when I calendar something. And if it was there and I overlooked it, I don't know. But this is the first year that I've not gone, and I was dismayed that I didn't go because, well, I didn't know about it.
Well, it was a wonderful conference, and this is the 15th year, and
Yeah.
and we look forward to another good conference next year. Thank you.
Okay, so just a quick on my report. I do sit on the California School Board Association Planning Committee for the annual conference. And so we had another meeting last week and really dug deep into mental health and having that as a critical issue, because that was something identified universally from every school district, every board member, of that importance. So it won't just be sort of a general updated with critical issues, and maybe Ms. Chaitis Espinosa can elaborate, but critical issues is where we have an opportunity as school board members, not just to attend a general workshop, but you really get an opportunity to hear from the experts, and you get a lot more detailed information. I believe that's the benchmark of what's a critical issue versus just a regular session. Is that correct?
Yeah, the idea is that, we as school board members have to have a responsibility to engage in professional development, just like all of the school district employees in their various, job descriptions. The critical issues is a little bit different than the Masters in Governance program, in that there's a multi-year learning cycle, and they will take into consideration all of our time constraints and delve deeper into some of the issues that everybody should know, but there's just not enough time to deal with them in the Masters in Governance program.
Right, because mental health is such a big topic. So we spent probably 3 hours just on that subject itself. So definitely very important. And there's a number of other critical issues, including governance for board members and other areas, which is part of the ongoing educational learning. But I'm really looking forward to the mental health component. And we have other meetings coming up as well, so I'll have a report out on those. I did want to recognize Assemblymember Jim Cooper for introducing Assembly Bill 2663. It increases funding to California's after-school education and safety programs for low-income children. So we should be getting more information on how that impacts our district over the next few weeks, and then hopefully we'll be in a position to perhaps take a position on that once we receive more information than just the legislation. itself. So looking forward to that. And I do want to do just sort of a shout out to Laguna Sunrise Rotary for all the great work they've been doing over the last few weeks, reaching out to our children. We had a speech contest last night where I attended, and then, of course, their ongoing support of our students with the dictionary distribution that took place, I believe, last week or the week before. But just again, a shout out for all the wonderful work that they do in our community as one of our nonprofit partners. So that's my report. Mr. Hoffman, anything? All right. We then will go on to consent agenda. Mr. Fortuna.
Yes, I move approval of the consent agenda, including items 1 through 16.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Pull number 5, just make a comment.
All right, we are, it's a motion to approve 1 through 16 with the exception of number 5.
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Titus Espinosa. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Perez.
Student placement agreement between California State University, Sacramento, and Elk Grove Unified School District. A+, Superintendent Hoffman and staff. That's exactly what I'd like to see going on. Maybe in the near future, we could have an actual clinics at some of our high schools with these graduates of these schools once they graduate. I know for a fact that a lot of these positions right here, through the Office of Statewide Health Planning, there are shortages of community nutritionists, dietetics, health science, nursing, physical therapists, recreation therapy, all these, especially speech and hearing and speech pathology. These are in high demand in schools and in professions throughout California, and I commend you that you guys are doing a very good job on this issue.
All right, thank you for that. With that, I assume that you would like to move a consent agenda number 5, Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Aye.
And a second from Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any items from the floor? Ms. Titus Espinosa.
Just 2 quick acknowledgements. I'd like to thank Boy Scout Troop 136 from the Rancho Cordova area for inviting me to talk to them. It was part of their ongoing project where they're discussing what does it mean to be a citizen, what kind of responsibilities go along with that. So we had a great conversation and a visit with Assemblymember Cooley on the assembly floor today, and that was a lot of fun. Our student reporters from Elk Grove Unified mentioned it briefly, but it bears repeating that the Elk Grove High School mock trial team won the countywide contest again this year, which makes it the 4th consecutive year. And we know that that's in large part thanks to your former colleague, Jake Rambo. So congratulations to all the students and to their coach. And one other accomplished student, we had a junior from Pleasant Grove High School who won the statewide Poetry Out Loud contest. So another victory for the performing arts.
Excellent. Mr. Fortuna.
Yeah, thank you. You know, over the last couple of years, we have had a lot of discussions about parent engagement. And we have looked at multiple ways in which we could increase that, and certainly in the last couple budget cycles, we have funded dollars for parent engagement. You know, as part of my board responsibilities, you know, I've taken it upon myself to go to Parent University in various locations, our parent engagement efforts in various locations. And I believe we're doing a good job in terms of dealing with an age-old problem, and that is involving parents who might not otherwise be involved. But the reason why I make my comments right now is that at last Thursday night's parent engagement education meeting at Barbara Comstock Morse, I was like overwhelmed with the level of participation. And when I wrote to Ms. Umi and her staff, one thing I said, because I really believe it, and while I understand the need for individuality in schools, I also believe in the value of replication. I do believe they hold keys that unlock lots of doors to parent engagement. The success, and I attended a previous one also to this one at their school. the level of the success and the breadth of instruction that they provide goes beyond credible. The sessions they provided, this last one dealt with fluency, sight recognition, math and its relationship to Common Core, both K3 and then 4 5 6. Computer development. It's an act. The actions they take there, they just need to be applauded because they have continued success at all of their efforts, not some of their efforts, at all of their efforts. And I just really think that we need to take note that there are some very, very effective strategies that are being implemented and strategies that we should really be taking a look at in terms of spreading those across other programs. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forcina. All right, seeing no other items from the floor, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.